time for Think, Change, Repeat. And now, the host of Think, Change, Repeat, Ashley.
Hey, I love the intro.
Sweet. I'm so glad that you do. My buddy Doc Rock made that for me. And I like it too. I think it's a vibe. I had sent him a song as my inspiration, and he found something that was copyright free that he could use that kind of had that vibe. So,
yes. What number episode are you on now?
We're on number 7.
All right.
Yes. So welcome to another episode, number 7 of Think, Change, Repeat. I'm your host today, and with me I have my friend and fellow podcaster, Ray from the Raydical Truth, and we have been talking about this for a while. I've been on Ray's show a few times, always have an amazing time. We're friends outside of this as well, and keep in touch pretty regularly. So I'm very happy to have her here with us today. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me on. Like when we got on, actually, before we went live, I'm so used to us chatting, you went straight for it. So we didn't get a chance to catch up. So it'll be organic when I'm on here. So thanks for having me.
It will be, yes. And I was hoping maybe we'll have a few minutes after, because we do usually talk for a long time before we record. But when I'm sending stuff to people from my Gmail, people are telling me they're not getting it. And I don't know why. And I've had other people message my email and it's going to my spam. And they have a Gmail account too. So
I wonder if StreamYard. You check on the settings for StreamYard. That might be why you might be having some issues.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Something for me to look at. But anyway, we don't have that much time. We've got about an hour. So I want to get right into it. Ray, you have your own show. Mm-hmm. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you cover on your show and where people can find it first and foremost?
Oh, yeah. Raydical Truth Podcast. It's strictly on Spotify because I'm a corporate slave right now. And I have to be very careful since it is a conspiracy theory podcast, but it's turned more to be like a truther podcast. Things that, I started this a year and some change ago now, but I started asking big questions during COVID, like which most people did. And, everything that was considered a conspiracy theory is now considered truth. So on my show, we talk everything from, secret government cover-ups, ghosts, anything paranormal, old schools. I mean, I recently just had, who's going to be airing next week, Paul Stobbs, who is a PhD in theology, who has found through old biblical texts that the Nephilim actually looked like clowns. And that's why historically people are so terrified of clowns, with pale skin and red hair being the the children from the fallen, like the Watchers and the children of Cain, or the wives of the daughters of Cain. So that's what my podcast is about. And people can also, if they just want to look at clips first, take a look. It's on Instagram at the Raydical Truth.
Yeah, you're so good about your organization for your show, like of you record the episode, you get everything uploaded, and you get your clips out there and ready. And that is something that I definitely still have to work on. But there's a ton of little samples on your social media, on Instagram, that people can get samples of. Now, this past week, you also had Michael Strange. That was your episode that dropped on Friday. I haven't had a chance to catch it yet, but that is, I'm sure, going to be a really good one. How did it go?
Michael Strange is what my husband always blames him to, is one of the reasons I got into podcasting, because I found him in 2020. And I kind of compare him to the modern day Art Bell from Coast to Coast Radio. He has a live stream of the live radio kind of concept still going on 3 nights a week. It was 7 nights, but you can get a little burned out doing that. And he was fucking phenomenal on my show. We talked, stuff about the conspiracy theories on this last episode about the Vegas shooting. We talked about aliens, but the Vegas shooting one was big part of the topic. He's wonderful. He's great. He can talk about paint drying and he makes it sound like amazing.
This is true. He has an incredible radio voice. And I think that's where you also, so you got into the podcasting space from that, but you also ended up meeting like this whole community of other people that and you have done their shows as well. And then this past week, I know you were busy, but you were supposed to go on Ricky's show, Anything is Possible, for the 100th episode of that. And I did go on there for a few minutes, but I told Ricky, I was like, I'm probably not gonna be able to stay the whole time. Y'all go late. Now, maybe for you over on the West Coast, it's not as bad, but I can't stay up too late.
No, I'm a grandma. I mean, I go to bed like at 8 or 9 o'clock anyways, but I was at work doing some reshoots. I'm in media till 10:30 at night. So by the time that I was done, I was so crispy being there since 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And I apologized so much. I'm like, I'm so sorry, Ricky. But, at the moment, the podcast is not paying my salary. One day I'm hoping that it will. I mean, the show's getting bigger. So we're just looking for more and more sponsorships. But yeah, I love Ricky, James Salcedo. I've called in for Michael Strange. But a big shout out to Sweets, because she's the one that actually introduced me to Knights of the Storm. And I was like, I have to have Ashley on my show. So
yes, I appreciate that so much. I was just telling somebody that story the other day. I was like, so anyway, so Sweets was in our chat and all these people knew each other from the Troubled Minds Radio and they were all friends. And then that's how I ended up meeting Ray. So, and before we kind of move on, I do want to give shout outs because we have some people here with us live. So we have Ghost Art, Ricky, Anything is Possible. We have Hiker Emoji, Nostradamus. We have Sweets, and we have Jason Barker. So thank you everybody for joining us live and checking this out.
Hey everybody.
Hello. Okay, so let's get into this, because you and I have talked about a lot of these different things as far as the conspiracy world goes, and you're coming at this originally from being kind of like a normie Republican. Would you describe? I mean, I know you're a critical thinker, but that was kind of the camp that you fell into. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Florida. I'm mixed. I never even actually experienced any racism until I actually moved to California, which is funny. But yeah, I grew up hunting, fishing, Republican father, mom, and I never thought of any other way to think. To me at the time, it made sense. And like, since I came out of the womb, I've always considered myself more right-leaning.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking. And that's kind of me too. I came from a conservative background, and then I kind of got into this space differently, because for me, it wasn't even necessarily conspiracy related at all. It was somewhat, of course, I was questioning, and some of the people that I started following were questioning 9/11, but it really wasn't even about that. It was more about government overreach. And for me, the transition from going to, I wouldn't have really considered myself anything. I was very conservative in some ways, but also like very socially liberal. I always hated hearing, as a kid, I was interested in politics, and I hated hearing about the deficit and, government handouts. And so, I mean, a lot of those are some of the right-wing talking points. And I think there's validity there. And I would, at this point though, even if we were living under a principled government that was very left-leaning and was like, okay, we're going to pay for your healthcare, we're going to provide food for people, we're whatever, housing. If they use the money that they took from us to actually help people, I would stop complaining about it. I really would. But at this point, I don't even know what it is. We've got these elements of socialism and communism and fascism and this weird amalgamation of whatever. So in your coming from like that conservative perspective, I know, especially like in the last several months in our conversations, you're like, I'm getting the done vibe from you as far as that goes. So where are you at now? And especially as you have been digging into researching, looking into all the stuff that have been, we don't get the whole story, or we've been lied to, or it's been suppressed. I mean, so what is your evolution at this point?
Well, I'll go back to, you're talking about socialism, like communism. Socialism does not work. I love the idea of free healthcare. I love the idea of helping the underserved. For someone whose mom was homeless towards the end of her life, the homeless population out here, like, I sound like a bleeding heart liberal, but there are people that have a lot of issues with mental disorders nowadays, especially with what they put in our food. But I went to Canada back in 2004, and I fell off of a lighting truss when I was on tour. And I remember I went to the hospital, and they only have 50 million people compared to 375 million allegedly in the United States, because we don't know with the census. And they gave me a Vicodin and told me I was going to have to wait almost a year to get an MRI. The guy next to me broke his arm. They gave him pain pills and made him wait a week to get his arm reset. So I know people that are looking for knee replacements or they have cancer and they end up dying because of the waiting list. And I think everyone should have some form of healthcare, but if you are at home fucking smoking weed, drinking, and sitting and playing fucking video games, I think I should get to go in ahead of you. And I also am big on health. They always tell me, the COVID vaccine kind of swayed me a lot, made me hate the Democratic Party, because, Biden was in office at the time, and I'm severely COVID vaccine injured. And, with all the stuff I've been going through with surgeries and having to like be on a certain diet, and I can't even have a glass of wine anymore without it fucking up my body. But yeah, so I was always kind of like, fuck Kamala. Sorry, I'm cussing a lot. I know a lot of your viewers hate that. Okay, good. But once Trump got into office, I voted for no new wars. I loved the Doge. I loved Elon Musk was supposed to come in and see any kind of fraudulent activities going on. I loved the fact that, hardworking Americans were able to get a tax break, things like that.
Things that sounded good to help the working person.
Yes. And once they were doing all that fucking parading of all the influencers with the binders for Jeffrey Epstein. So that was my first issue because one, my sisters and I dealt with pedophilia when we were kids. So anyone that has been touched by an adult, I feel like, we're going to feel like we get like this victory. Let's have Jeffrey Epstein, all the files, everyone is going to go to jail. When that did not happen, my brain kind of exploded. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? And especially if you went through the Epstein files, you only saw 374 megabytes, and there's 14 terabytes that they have not released.
That's what we've heard.
Yep. Same thing with Pfizer. I loved Robert Kennedy Jr. They were supposed to release all the bullshit with Pfizer, and come to find out, Pam Bondi, her consulting firm, her number one client was Pfizer. She blocked that right when she got into the administration. So that was another X on the what the fuck are we doing? And, a lot of the stuff with Maha, I was looking for, all the stuff that's causing autism, the vaccine schedule for kids, what's in food, the fact that my friend who's type 1 diabetes has to pay for her own medication, but these type 2 diabetics that are literally eating themselves to death are getting free Ozempic, but not being told to change their lifestyles, and they're getting free healthcare, basically. Same thing with transgender surgeries. That still hasn't been kicked out down the road. They're quietly talking about it, but it's still an issue. And for someone who is a competitive lifter, I have a real problem with men and women's sports. Even with Trump in office, it's still happening. I'm on a tangent right now, but I'm almost there. So, but once I kind of saw all this stuff, and I don't want to get into like any of the war stuff or, like different countries and shit like that. My whole thing is I question my own government. So I don't consider myself anti anything, but I will question other countries. And now I just realize that the elite really are a thing, and that it's not Republican and Democrat. It's literally the 1%ers in us. I mean, looking at the fact that Zuckerberg just bought this private compound that he's building in Hawaii. But wait a minute, I thought there was climate change. Why are you going to build something in Hawaii? We've got Bill Gates, who's still being allowed to make all these fucking vaccines, who's the same guy that created all these viruses on computers and then created the software that fixed the viruses. So we've got the malaria outbreak. We're seeing this uptick in ticks. Like, what the fuck are we doing? So now I'm considering myself more. I mean, I'm still very conservative for someone who had a near-death experience and saw Jesus. I have Christ in my life. I do have a lot of old school way of thinking, which could be considered right-wing. But when it comes to the government, I just don't trust anybody that has the politician title.
Yeah. And I think that's really the sense of where I got as far as what your journey is at this point. And for me, I'm an anarchist. So or at least anarchist-ish, because even during leading into the 2024, was it 2020, 24? I don't know. I think it was 2024. These things are kind of a blur. But there's so much nonsense, even if you were subscribing to the parties, in my opinion, if you were to vote libertarian, a lot of these people they seem like just the sellouts or people that are being incompetent. I don't know if it's intentional or what, but I just feel like the system is designed to make people think that there's two ways that you can go. And yes, there are some issues that they disagree on, kind of, but ultimately what it seems like to me is, basing on the history from my lifetime memory, we're only moving in one direction, which is whatever we have now. This technocracy, it's lies, it's corruption, it's financial malfeasance, all these things. So it's really, that's where I'm at. But I knew that you had come more recently of being a conservative, and I have some conservative values and some liberal. And that's why I was saying, like, I'm not a socialist at all. And I don't subscribe to that ideology, because I do think that if you're, a voluntariist, so if you take people's money, then that is a violation. You're not getting their consent to take the money, and you are not getting their input, even though you're supposed to, in a republic that we have, that people should be able to provide consent, and there is no consent. And then there's so much corruption that, like what you were talking about, there's so many people that are getting rich off of this, but huge companies that are getting payoffs, other countries that are getting huge amounts of money from us. Meanwhile, there's so many people in the United States that are suffering every single day. Okay, so you had brought up the fact that you live in California. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about that? I want to hear about some of the changes, because this is something we've discussed off the air before and have been for weeks now. Talk to us about what you're seeing as far as prices, gas prices, food prices, the homelessness epidemic that you were discussing. Talk to us. What is it like to live in Southern California?
Well, one, I moved out here in 2001 and it was great. Before social media too, you could always tell people that were from LA. They had like the newest styles and like the best makeup. And you could pick somebody from Florida by the way that we dressed or our hair. So there was like this little hidden gem, and it was like thriving because of the entertainment industry. So all the cool clubs, bars, and also like I was young, so that you still have hope, excitement in your life.
It was a vibe.
It's great. So I think that's why, I'm married and my husband's from here. Now he is retired and he's a Democrat. So I'll start with that. And I sort of started watching like the homelessness crisis kind of go fucking wild in 2020. Like people just, I'm talking, we have a place called Skid Row here, which is 50 blocks, Ash. And
wow. So I knew about Skid Row, but I don't think I understood the magnitude. Continue.
Yeah, it's enormous. They're getting thousands of dollars on debit cards. They're getting these tiny homes built that they're using it for money laundering, saying that each little tiny home is $250,000 each. No one's staying in them. Yet we have our tax for our state tax is 14%. So if you live in Florida, there's no state tax. Our gas right now I understand there is the Iran war about to pop off, but it's this morning my husband went to fill up for the first time in a long time, and he's got a little coupe Mercedes, and it cost him $134 to fill up his car. And the gas is $7 a gallon, $7.01 yesterday. I think I was going to send you a picture, but I was like hauling ass to get to work.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, my God, like if it wasn't for my husband. So if you make less than $156,000 in California, you are now considered poverty. And for you to be able to have 2 weeks vacation per year, stay debt free, you need to have a roommate and make that kind of income, which only, I think they said like 10% of California does that. And Gavin Newsom's on this fucking huge, like talking about we're the second biggest economy in the world. I'm like, yeah, because we have the biggest tech companies. We've got NVIDIA here, we've got Meta, but they're only accounting for 1% of it. And the rest of us are just holding on for dear life. Now, thank God I'm married up, but considering the amount of money that he had made, he's still considered middle class. And if we get a divorce, there's a really good prenup in place. I told my boss the other day, I was like, my husband and I split. You guys are gonna have to rethink me because I can't afford to live out here anymore. Plus the homelessness, Ash, they attack people. They shit in front of elementary schools. They're having sex in front of elementary schools, not getting arrested. They're getting free food, everything, and they're just taking over the streets. They're violent, but it's okay. They're giving them free needles to make sure they don't get infected with the drugs that they're injecting.
The harm reduction strategies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So do you have any thoughts on what caused the explosion in homelessness? Now, I would say you had mentioned the year 2020. So I think that we know that there was a lot going down. A lot of people's businesses were shut down. A lot of people lost their jobs. Things did begin getting more expensive very quickly after that. We weren't really hit with immediate inflation like what we're dealing with now, but what are your thoughts on what contributed to that explosion, and what did it look like when you were there? Because we've always heard about Skid Row, right? But what did it look like when you were there in 2001, 2002 versus now?
Homelessness has always been here. The first day we moved here, the three of us were walking in a line down Hollywood Boulevard, and a homeless guy rode by on a bike and grabbed all three of our asses. And like they were always kind of been here, but you knew sort of the areas to go and not go. Now in 2020, California had one of the strictest lockdowns in the country. We were shut down for 2.5 years. So no one could, if you were a bartender, you couldn't wait tables. But guess what? You still had to pay that fucking rent. And then if you weren't paying rent, by the way, they turned that over. So I could have not paid rent, not have to pay anybody back. But you were seeing a lot of people that were becoming alcoholics, doing lots of drugs because they were stuck inside of their apartment and told to stay in place.
Yes. Addictions definitely got worse because of the isolation. 100%.
300% increase in alcohol sales during COVID. And so people that were trying to save money because they weren't working started living in their cars. I actually know people that are in tech like me that do well for themselves that live in their cars, and they're paying $50 a month for a parking space to leave their car there, and they're using the gym to shower every morning. And they have like 3 or 4 outfits they just rotate through so they can stay here, but they don't have the funds to be able to move out of the state. And the remote work is gone. A lot of people raped that whole system. So we saw like this big increase, and people were getting those $1,200 checks from California, which for some people that was an increase in pay. But something like 80% of the local businesses by us shut down, and people could not afford to leave. So we were also seeing an influx. We're in California, the border. So we were millions of people across the border, and they were offering free housing and sometimes $4,000 or $5,000 a month for these families that were coming in from Mexico. And I'm not just saying Mexicans, don't call me a racist. I'm talking about Chinese were coming through, all these different races. They just allowed through the border. So no housing. So people that can't afford and trying to find affordable housing are now stuck on the streets because they can't afford to live in their houses. So a standard apartment now, I talked about this, I think on Ricky's show the other night, that a studio apartment in the hood is now $3,000 a month. So it's insane.
So what type of rhetoric are you getting from your coworkers? And I know we're not getting into where you work or anything like that, but you have I know there's some conservative overlap there, but you have like a decently diverse group of people that you work with. And what are they reporting? I mean, do they feel the same way? Does everybody that you interact with in your social circle and friends outside of this situation feel like we're absolutely just being squeezed to death? Like, what is the overall sentiment of your network?
I mean, I have a lot of war people at work. I have people that are very religious, and they have their thoughts on things that we're getting involved in, and I don't fault them for that. But everyone's starting to feel, I don't make great money, but I make good money. And like I said, if I didn't have all the medical bills that I had because of the COVID vaccine, it'd be doable. But I see some of these younger editors and stuff where I work, and they're starting to say like, hey, do you think maybe we could do a hybrid work model because I can't afford to come to work anymore? Like, it's costing me $200 a week to go to work for gas. And even these other kids, if it's, $75, $80 for their cars, it's squeezing them. It's $400 or $500 a month for them.
100%. It's huge. And talk to us. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but talk to us a little bit about your commute, because if there's no traffic, your commute is what?
About 20, 30 minutes.
And then with morning traffic?
If I leave when I call you in the morning, like by 6 or 7 a.m., it's about an hour. And you guys, it's only 13 miles from my house. And if I leave anytime like after 5 on the dot, it takes me 90 minutes to get home. So, I mean, it's crazy, crazy traffic. And a lot of the times, most of the people on the roads too are uninsured because the cost, and I'm not just even talking about illegals, people in general, the cost of covering the cars out here is stupid.
I'm sure.
Between the fires out here, homelessness, like getting things insured is next to impossible.
Yes. And that was one of the conversations that had come up after not only the Palisades fire, but at the beginning of 2025. This was one of the conversations that it was kind of out there online. And they're saying, look, because the state of California tried to limit insurance companies, and I'm not saying they're not scams, but I'm saying this is what I heard or gathered, that the state of California limited these insurance companies from being able to raise rates. And because of that, the insurance companies said, okay, well, we can't insure you at all. And that just very coincidentally happened before tons of people saw their homes go up in flames. Am I right about that?
Yes. And to be honest with you, I think that was put into place. I mean, right between the Maui fires and what happened in Maui, and no one's rebuilt, and the thousands of people there still not talking about that died in that, and it being a land grab. So Newsom did this whole affordable housing thing in 2016, where he purchased these high-rise apartments for like 16 million, and there's like a 10-year deal. So they make it affordable housing for the underprivileged. They can go there for cheap rent, and then they kick them out after 10 years, and then they turn this a fucking apartment building into a $136 million luxury apartment building. So I remember as soon as the Altadena and Palisades fire happened, Newsom was like, yeah, we're talking to people right now. We got some ideas to make it affordable housing, which, you know, for a state that considers himself woke and inclusive, 80% of Altadena is Black multi-generational homes. And almost 100% of those people that got hit in Altadena had to get rid of their property because they couldn't afford. Because even right now with the rebuilding, you have to make it sustainable materials. So it's 3 times the cost of what it cost them to rebuild. It's also toxic, so they can't live on there. They have to get that cleaned out. And 3, they're still having to pay their mortgage on a house they can't live in. So
yeah, it's unimaginable, honestly. It really is. And you brought up a good point. This is something that a lot of us, especially that live in states that are, I mean, there are concerns for sure, but that are nowhere close to as strict as California. Like, obviously, I think that we should have access to housing materials that are not toxic, but I believe that the restrictions on materials, like what you're talking about in California, are so much more strict than in other locations. And that even goes with like certain products, or sometimes you'll see things on something on Amazon. It's like, FYI, this is not in compliance with rule blah, blah, blah in California. And I was like, what?
It's all money grab. And the fact that like right now, because like Spencer Pratt, who is running for mayor, if you guys haven't followed, Karen Bass is the bridge troll of fucking politics out here in California. She's our mayor. And she was gone when the Palisades fire happened. She was famously sent an email said something big is going to happen. She defunded the fire department. The chief fire officer said that she was defunded, that she fired her. And the fact that they're saying that this mayor race is so close, it's like it's being fucking stolen. Walking around a woke neighborhood the other day over by where I work, which is always like has those stupid signs that say like, here, Black Lives Matter. Everyone, like, you know, so stupid, like inclusivity.
Do you feel better, Ray, because you're half Black? Does it make you feel more included?
I know. I was like, gee, thanks. But even these fucks now have please vote for Spencer Pratt, because they're seeing, and I mean, he did a show on like Sam Tripoli's show, Tinfoil Hat. And it broke my heart when he was talking about all those animals that are being abused on Skid Row, killed, being mutilated. He had videos of it.
Oh.
And then I love that the other lady, I can't think of her name right now, that's running against Karen Bass, was like, well, Spencer Pratt was a reality star. I'm like, Karen Bass was part of like some kind of weird, like Marxist bullshit back when she was his age. It's like,
I'm sure.
Cares? Yeah, it's disheartening to be out here because it's beautiful out here, but the beauty is gone. If we didn't have the beaches, it's just like being in hell.
I really do hate to hear it, because I know we've talked about what a beautiful place it is. And that was one of the things. So interestingly enough, I never was like watching The Hills back in the day. Now, I'm not above reality TV. Oh, no. While The Hills was on, I was watching The Osbournes. Okay. I wanted pink hair like Kelly. That's what I wanted. I wanted subtitles because I couldn't understand what Ozzy was saying. But I'm not above reality TV. I was watching it, just not The Hills and all that stuff. So I wasn't even familiar with him, except for I knew he was the bad guy. Go ahead, Ray. What were you saying?
Have you seen Kelly Osbourne lately?
Yes, I have.
Holy fuck. She looks like an Auschwitz victim, dude. Like, everyone's like, look how great Kelly. I'm like, she's a bone. She's a skeleton.
She looks, and this is something, actually, we'll get into that next. So hold that thought. Don't let me forget.
All right.
Sorry. But no, you're good. you know how I am. If I don't say it though, I'll lose it, but I don't want to forget that one. So I was actually watching, I was on TikTok and I was watching the end of TikTok. And this is when everybody was like, oh, TikTok is ending, which of course I think ended up just being a huge psyop so that Larry Ellison's son could buy it. And they had the whole narrative of like, oh, the Chinese have your data, they have your data. But now Larry Ellison and his, milieu have your data. So which one's better? I don't know. Probably none of them. But anyway, so there was this threat of like TikTok is shutting down. Well, this was right after Spencer Pratt and Heidi's house had burned down. But also in the Liberty space, Monica Perez was living out in California. And I don't remember exactly what part she's in, but many homes in her neighborhood burned down. They burned to the ground. And just by the grace of God or luck or combination of all of the above, her house was spared and a couple of her neighbors. So this was something that we knew about right away because what she had experienced. But this was the same fire where everything that Spencer Pratt and his wife owned. And he talked about this very openly on TikTok. And he ended up becoming really popular because he started talking right away. Like, we lost everything. We're living in a place that my parents are letting me live in. My parents have to sell their land now because they cannot afford to rebuild their house. When they bought their house back in maybe the 90s, it was $1 million home. Now, for them to rebuild it, it would be $10 million. So they had to sell that land. And they said, our home, when we bought it, it was about $1 million home, which I know these things sound like a lot, but not out there. It's like normal home.
A standard home out here will run you about 1.3. So ours is like 11 years old when we bought it, and we bought it for like $650, and it's tripled in price. So
Yeah.
just in the last 11 years, like you can get a nice apartment or condo out here for about $550 to $650. It's insanity. But speaking of, by the way, even just because your house didn't burn down in the Palisades or Altadena, you can't live there, Ash, because most of those homes had smart meters, and the toxicity, they're only testing down to 6 inches. All that stuff is leaking in. They reopened the school in the Palisades for kids to go to school, and kids were getting basically radiation poisoning because of what had leaked into the ground, even almost a year after they reopened the school. So most of that stuff you can't live in for a couple more years. Like, and the oceans are disgusting here. You can't fish.
Well, that was one of the things that Spencer had talked about. So I was watching his stuff every single day. He was doing so many videos, and the whole premise for him was like, I'm trying to make money. I'm here to tell you what's going on, be funny, be engaging, be entertaining. He's like eating his burrito every day. He's having his cappuccino, but he's talking about real issues, and they were devastated. And I know so many other people were devastated at that time. So that's how I started watching him. And I was kind of keeping track of him into this mayoral race. And that's one of the things that people want to paint him with a right-wing brush. But he's like, no, I am somebody who lives in this state, in this city, and I am fed up. I'm pissed. Yeah. Because of your poor mismanagement, you drained all our water away. You let them release this toxic sludge into the ocean. You had these horrible policies. You made these terrible decisions on the day of, like what you were explaining to us. They had poor brush management, all of these things. And he's like, you did that, and nothing is happening to you for this. And then we lost everything. And it was, there was some kind of cool stuff like that. Heidi's album, it was like a 15-year-old album or something, ended up going to #1 because people were trying to support them and help them out. But it just was, I was curious about your thoughts on Spencer Pratt. And look, I don't trust politicians. I know he's not a lifetime politician. He was kind of an actor. If I hope that he at least gets a chance to try. What I think generally is that people in that position, because he's vulnerable, that he is opening himself up to be preyed upon by people who want to be his handlers and manage him to do whatever they want. But if he has a shot, I hope he does.
Regardless if he wins or not, I love that he is open sort of the eagle eye to what is actually going on out here. Most of that stuff not discussed on the local news here, like at all. They're still painting this picture that Karen Bass is a stand-up fucking citizen, and she's not.
People know that, don't they? Don't
No,
people see?
no. So most people, especially for boomers out here, people that are voting, not so much. I'm talking about primaries right now. I'm like people that if you actually care, go vote in your primary elections because the presidential election doesn't really matter. Your state and local elections are how you're going to affect your day-to-day life. So the problem is they're masking all of this. Newsom has this knack of making himself look very stately. He's so full of shit that people keep, that's why he won't go on Joe Rogan's show, is because he knows he's going to get pinned. And I remember his first guest on his podcast, which is shit, by the way, was Charlie Kirk. And he had to admit that his son loves Charlie Kirk. You know what I mean?
Very interesting.
I love Spencer Pratt's newest little shenanigans is he is taking stencils and they're power washing the sidewalks. So it says, if you vote for me, the sidewalks will be this clean. And you can see the stencil because there's so much dirt from all the bullshit of people just dumping their trash.
Wow.
Trash is obscene on the streets.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about in nice neighborhoods, like $10, $15 million homes. There's homeless, there's trash. I was driving through 3rd and Fairfax, a predominant Jewish neighborhood. And I'm talking houses start about 15 million. And there was a naked homeless guy jerking off in the middle of the street at 7 a.m. in the middle of traffic with trash everywhere.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, honestly, we could have an entire conversation on that. I will just say this, that I don't see how we come back from that. But okay, so we got a few things we want to talk about and not much time. It's like we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So here we go. Now, talking about the Osbournes, Kelly Osbourne, and the amount of weight that she has lost, which a lot of people do think, well, first of all, like grief, and she ended up splitting up with her husband, and she had previously had issues with addiction, and then certainly so many people appear to be on GLP-1 inhibitors who are in Hollywood or, descendants of, the Nepo babies or whatever you want to say. So talk to us about that as far as what are you seeing in the culture wars, basically. Like we've seen a lot of celebrities that people are trying to identify, like, oh, Ozempic face or whatever. And I'm not trying to have this conversation to shame them, but I think that the idea of body dysmorphia and people trying to look perfect, and particularly paired with the pressure of somewhere like LA. And then we have people that are constantly changing their looks, constantly appear to be getting plastic surgery, like the Kardashian family, for example. And I think that likely puts pressure on people in general, especially women, to try to look. We don't want to age. We don't want to have wrinkles. We don't want to have gray hair. Like we want to have the perfect figure, whatever. So what are you seeing out there in your observation?
Well,
boots on the ground.
I never wear makeup on the show for a reason, but for someone who contours the fuck out of her face for a corporate office, I don't do Botox anymore. But GLP-1s out here, it's so funny. Before I say that, in 2020, the party, because we're considered a democratic state of inclusivity, and they were having everybody, you couldn't fat shame anybody. You had to be like body positivity. And now, as soon as Ozempic happens, all these motherfuckers that were like, especially like Meghan Trainor, the singer's like, all about that bass. And now she's
all about that bass.
You can get a GLP-1 out here. All I have to do is go to CVS or like a Walgreens, and you can put weights in your pocket. They don't even look at your body. They don't do a background check on like you have cancer in your family, what your diet looks like. GLP-1, immediately same day you walk out with it with injections. I am noticing, for someone that has to keep getting basically plastic surgery for the tumor removal, the amount of people that are doing plastic surgery and that the amount that the insurance company is actually covering now because of GLP-1, because the amount of muscle loss in their face. I had a friend of mine, she just dropped $70,000 on a deep plane and facial lift.
Did it work?
She looks like everybody else. She looks beautiful, but there's nothing unique about her look anymore because everyone's getting that same Kardashian nip tuck.
Right. So she kind of lost her natural beauty. But do you feel like the reason that she did that was because she had lost so much weight with a GLP-1 inhibitor?
I think it's a combination of both. I think a lot of my friends that are on GLP-1s, I give them a ton of shit for it, But I'm on peptides, but I'm specifically on peptides because of Durkheim's disease. So it keeps the inflammation down. But specifically for GLP-1s, yes, I see the face drop, but there's muscles in your face that you can actually train, that you can actually, I remember when I used to squat heavy, like biting down on a bit and doing certain facial exercises will actually help lift your face. And I'm not, I'm in my 40s now. I'm not ashamed to say that. But, like a nip tuck, a lot of people out here just do it. And they're doing certain ways now. They just do like a thread pull, same day and out. It's so normal now to see a skeleton walking down the street. But it's still, I've noticed a big influx in like fat people out here, which is not normal. Usually it's very thin people. But I'm seeing either really, really fat people or I'm seeing like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, in fact, I was at work the other day. I've dropped like 25 pounds. I have a sweatshirt on since March for my surgery. And everyone's like, did you get on a GLP-1? I'm like, no, dude, I'm literally just dieting and exercising. But if people just assume now if you lose the weight, it's because you're taking a GLP-1.
Yeah. I definitely have had that same thought that especially if you drop a significant amount of weight, people are going to think that you're on GLP, which whatever. Like if somebody, I don't care if someone's taking GLP-1, my concern or not, I'm not judging them for the vanity part of that or what could be perceived as vanity, right? Like people want to look and feel their best. And I am here for that. My concern is the wide subscription or prescribing of GLP-1s, like what you were saying, to anybody and everybody. And we know that these things have not been on the market really long enough to tell what are the long-term side effects. So you talked about the effects in your musculature. So that's one of the big ones, is that you have a high opportunity to lose actual muscle mass in weight as opposed to just the fat that you would like to lose. So there's one element of that. The other thing is that the GLPs that medication works on, you have that in your heart muscles, in your heart tissue, in your brain, things like that people don't consider, and they don't really talk to you about that. And then the other thing is that I have heard of some people actually experiencing blindness from the use of GLP-1s. They have, in some cases, an entire aversion to eating, period. They have something where so normally like your stomach and your intestines, people should be having a bowel movement every single day, if not two, like if everything is working very well. Well, I've heard that people that are doing GLP-1s, they will have basically almost not paralyzing, but close to that, like a significant slowdown.
Gastroparesis, your stomach muscles stop working.
Yeah.
So the problem is, so when GLP-1s first came out for people that are diabetic, in theory, to help with inflammation on microdosing for a GLP-1 is great. The problem that they're doing with these people is the reason that I think we're seeing significant side effects is no one's actually correcting their eating. Yes, they may eat a lot less, but they're still eating fast food. They're drinking a lot less, but they're getting dissociative personality disorder because it's affecting how their brain works. And they're getting huge like osteoporosis for like these 25-year-old girls where their bones are getting holes in them. But the one with their stomach muscles just stop working, so they're having to get what's it called, like a colonoscopy bag for the rest of their life. So it's like no one is actually thinking about what this drug is doing long term. But
Right.
I said it could be helpful for people that are morbidly obese, but you have
Definitely.
and it's funny, insurance, like the reason I'm not having surgery next week is because they're fighting me because it's a COVID vaccine injury. They have to go through a whole panel again. How come they're not making people that have eaten themselves into a fucking corner have to at least do a year of diet and exercise and put on, some kind of, if it's not like lipodema or Durkheim's like me, if it's just fat and you're a fat fuck, sorry everybody, and you're just acting like a hippo and cannot stop eating because you haven't gotten yourself into check, that should not be a reason to give someone a GLP-1. You're making those symptoms worse in other parts of their lives. So I think they should take it off the market unless you literally are like a diabetic or have some kind of issue. Like you said, to your point, there's heart issues also associated with GLP-1s. There's throat cancer, thyroid issues, gallbladders. Like something like 40% of people on GLP-1s have to have a gallbladder removal. It's insane to me.
Yeah, it is. And so just so we know, like the gallbladder is intimately involved in your digestion. That is what actually creates the bile for you to be able to break down the foods and get the nutrients that you need. It's so important. And that's another huge concern of mine is just like, oh, you need your gallbladder removed. And I think that these things speak to so many systemic problems that are representative of where we're at today. So like when I'm seeing people that are severely overweight, I feel bad for them because I think in some cases, perhaps it is a trauma response. Perhaps like their brain literally has been hacked like an addiction by the tasty treats or whatever that is. I mean, I'm sure that there is some amount of people that are not taking accountability for themselves, but also I think like things are so screwed up. Like when we saw the amount of overdose deaths after COVID, those are considered deaths of despair. And that is what how I personally look at if we're dealing with morbid obesity in a lot of cases. And we know that there are so many things that are poisoning metabolisms and thyroid and whatever. But all that to say, these are systemic issues that you are at the very least slapping a Band-Aid on it with the GLP-1, because let's say that we do have a poison metabolism. So then we need to repair your gut health and we need to make sure that your thyroid is good and that all of this stuff is working well and that you do have an education on what works best for you as far as diet goes and exercise and weightlifting and all these things. And that never happens. People, they don't educate you on your gut health. For the most part, like, and you and I have talked about this stuff a lot, but that's all stuff of like us just figuring it out, like doing our own, looking into it, reading, studying, whatever to get there.
I had Dr. Tatum on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and she's a physician that walked away from the actual big pharma, big hospital during COVID because it started actually with creatine. She was noticing a lot of adrenal failure with these young guys taking creatine. And she was like, they're pushing this. And she actually made me question, I talked to my doctor the other day, she thinks there's a big push right now in peptides because all these healthy people that wouldn't take the COVID vaccine, if you can get them to start taking peptides and injecting themselves, because it's injection, that maybe they're pushing this mRNA or these new, like, nanobots, if you want to go down that road, if you want to go conspiracy theory, so that people are dying are going to be controlled.
Well, I think it's at least something to consider. And even if we say like, okay, maybe not nanobots, but lipid nanoparticles, like what is actually in this stuff and what effect does it have? So I think those are valid questions. Like maybe they're not doing something, maybe it's not a specific move, but in a lot of cases, I think we need to ask. This is some of the things. So for example, one of RFK's talking points was basically to have everybody have a wearable, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of concerns with that. First of all, my understanding is that you are exposing yourself to unnecessary light, like at night. So even if you have a small amount of light exposed to your skin, that can actually cause circadian rhythm disruptions. Never mind the EMF, and we can get into your EMF sensitivity and like what people can do to protect themselves. But you have that element and the potential for that to disrupt your sleep cycle as well. And never mind the track trace database nature of that. But I think that we need to be asking questions about why is this being pushed? So this was one of the things whenever I found the Pete space or Ray Pete's work, and they were called Peters, and I enjoyed learning about that. And it was a bioenergetic way of eating. But since then, I've had conversations that are very well versed in the Pete space and bioenergetics. And they really have come to the conclusion that it is very good for some people and it's not great for others. So if you're like a healthy young male, really active, then bioenergetics is for you. Drink the orange juice, do the things like whatever you need to do, but it's not, and have all the sugar, have regular Coca-Cola, like the Mexican Coke with real sugar, like do that because you can handle it. That because your gut health is in good shape, your metabolism is in good shape, like that works for you, but it's not for everybody. But I saw it becoming super popular. And one of the reasons I was thinking about that was maybe there is some of like the health surveillance data. This is pure speculation on my part. Maybe there's an element of like why the algorithm is showing you things about metabolic health and things like that, because it could potentially be tied in with wearables. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I definitely think that is a thing. I remember Trump was pushing for everyone to start turning in your data to the healthcare system so we can get that. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. For, like I said, for someone who's COVID vaccine injured, same like with diet as well. They were telling me that carnivore was terrible. But for someone who has to be on an anti-inflammatory diet, the standard, I can't have like fruits. There's certain things my fat turns hard.
Right. Histamine response.
Correct. So with MCAS, which by the way, this fucking bitch doctor that I went to during COVID, who told me I was irresponsible at first when I wouldn't get vaccinated. When I saw her again, I just needed someone quick to do my blood panels. And she was like, oh, you have MCAS. I have like 10 patients that got that after the COVID vaccine. And she's like very passive about it. I'm like, you fucking bitch. But she's COVID vaccine injured. So she's changed her tune a bit. She's sending me to a naturopath. But anyways, back to like the wearables. For me, I mean, you're talking to someone who used to do drugs and eat shit off the floor in her 20s. Like I used to not have any issues, no issues. And after the vaccine, I also noticed being around like computers, being around outside around like just large crowds of people with cell phones and shit. Like when I worked over at a big television station, I won't say what it was. It's all around computers, and I would have like a migraine all day long. So I started wearing, like I always have an EMF blanket under my computer if it's on my desk, or I have a shungite that I wear. I have an EMF watch blocker. I can't wear any kind of smart watches anymore. It burns my skin. If I get in a Tesla, it actually causes neck and shoulder pain and vertigo. And my doctor, they did all the tests on it, and they sent me to a specialist along with the one that I met in Arizona, and they confirmed that I'm EMF sensitive. And it's along with being Derkham's because it's a nervous system vascular disease, and it affects also the brain capillaries in my head. So they were saying that, anytime there's a new tower going up, you're going to be able to feel it. So in our house, we have EMF blocker like plugs. We have paint. We turn our Wi-Fi off at night. When my husband's not home, like just right now for the mic, like I can already feel like a little bit of a headache behind my ear, just being next to a mic. And I think that people don't realize, even if they don't feel a difference, like, oh, no, just mug me. It will. They're saying that so many people wearing wireless headphones is catastrophic for your brain. And it's causing brain tumors, brain cancer. It's causing mouth cancer. I mean, look at Steve Jobs. Although I still think they killed him because he wouldn't let the CIA actually, they wanted to be able to hack into everyone's iPhones. And he said no.
Yeah, they just got that actually.
Yep. And they were just showing but there's always pictures of him putting that damn phone in his back pocket, and he got, pancreatic cancer, which is very rare. So whether you believe it's a conspiracy that they killed him or he got, still any kind of that day. I know if I go in the middle of the woods for a day, I come back and I feel great.
You feel better. Yep. Yeah. So as far as that goes, do you feel like you can, I wanted to add that with the Bluetooth headphones, I don't use those anymore because I tried to kind of minimize it anyway, but I did for a while, but I don't do it anymore. I use wired to listen to stuff if I use my headphones because of the negative effect that it has on your thyroid. And I need all the thyroid help that I can possibly get. So I don't even want to risk it. So what is your life like post being COVID vaccine injured? And we don't have too much time left, but I just want to say, walk us through like because the layout of getting the shots was I'm getting the shots, like you get your first one, 2 weeks later, you get your second one, and then booster, blah, 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 whatever. So what did that look like for you? You made the decision to do it for whatever reason. And did you notice or feel anything after the first one?
Okay. So one, I wasn't going to get it. I remember hearing John McAfee, the guy that did the antivirus, saying, don't get vaccinated. And I was willing to lose my job. My husband was going to leave me. But my sister and her husband showed up one day and they had Band-Aids on. And I found out they all got vaccinated. And my husband went and got vaccinated. I was like, well, they're all going to die, so I'm going to do it. And I was like, everyone seems to be okay. I'll go get it done. So now, meanwhile, I was getting it done too, because I also, I'd gotten a flu vaccine a couple months before, and it caused inflammatory response. I'd never had that happen before. And they're saying now that the COVID vaccine was in that flu vaccine for that January 2020. So I went and got vaccinated. I was considered a first responder, being in tech to help hospitals. And first one, I got nystagmus immediately, which is your eyes shaking out of your head. You can see your eyes moving. So my eyes were shaking. I was getting
Both eyes were doing that?
Yes, both eyes were doing the nystagmus, where they had to keep turning me in the hospital a certain way to get the eyes to stop shaking, along with vertigo for almost 72 hours and nerve pain where I couldn't feel anything. Like I couldn't stop feeling like zaps. And they told me
horrifying.
And they told me it wasn't from the vaccine. I was like, are you fucking crazy?
So this was after just one. Did you go with Pfizer Comirnaty?
Before you ask that, it doesn't fucking matter. Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, all three of us each got a different one, and we all got the same shit.
Okay. Yes.
I get so angry about this shit because it's like they fucking lie to me. And then I was going downhill, and I couldn't walk anymore because my hips tore. When I squatted down after that first one, I tore my hips. And I had to have hip surgery. And they said, you have to be fully vaccinated to actually have the hip surgery. So I went in again and I started getting the arrhythmia, and my Apple Watch at the time was showing the AFib. And so I went in, I was blacking out, coming in and out, and severe nerve pain. And I told them I felt like something was crawling up and down my body, and I got blood clotting all over my ass, Ash. So they kept me inside the hospital for a while. The girl next to me was 24 years old. She coded and died from a heart attack from the vaccine. And they kind of kept us all in this one little segment because it was so new and nobody could say anything. So I literally I couldn't work out. I couldn't squat. I'd gotten the hip surgeries. My hips didn't heal properly because I didn't realize there was all these angiolipomas growing all over my body. I couldn't touch my face without getting vertigo. So I was kind of going to all these different doctors. They were telling me I was a woman. I was just stressed out. I just needed to meditate more and work out more. I even had my hip surgeon was like, you just need to have a glass of wine. You need to relax, which I developed MCAS over the time, and drinking wine is not instantaneous where I go into anaphylactic shock, but then I was wrecked for
It would cause a flare.
Yes.
Yeah. And before you continue, I just wanted to point out that was one of the themes that I saw often of people reporting that they were vaccine injured, and the messaging that they got from oftentimes the ER was that this is in your head, you're having anxiety or a panic attack. So many people, I heard reports of that. So that tracks 100% with what you experienced. Continue, please.
And I remember I had another a heart flutter, and I had 15 firemen show up to my house, and they put an EKG on, and they're like, it's showing up as anxiety. And one of the firemen looked at me and goes, did you get vaccinated? And I said, yes. And he said, we're seeing this in everybody. And they're just telling us that it's fine. Because what it does is the neuropathy, what's happening to your nerve endings, like the actual sheathing on your nerves being torn off.
The myelin.
Yep. And for me, it's like I was so muscular at the time. People couldn't really feel. I could feel these tumors growing inside of me. And it takes a very specific ultrasound to see it, and a specialist. They'll be like, oh, it's just fat. No, there's literally blood clots inside of these tumors that also have blood vessels inside. So it's very painful. So I spent $140,000 meeting with specialists. Also, you don't want to be inflamed. So they were telling me to do PRP injections, which causes a huge inflammatory response. I was doing Botox around my eyes because if I froze my face, I wouldn't get vertigo because the muscles weren't moving around my eyes. It wouldn't affect my vision. So I went down this whole path, and I got genetic testing done myself. I advocated for myself, and I started putting it into ChatGPT a couple of years ago. And that's when the pieces started coming together in the little puzzle that I was trying to put together. And I remember my plastic surgeon, because finally I had a hole in my back because they took a tumor out and it wouldn't close, and you could see my spine for 7 months. And I was like, but I can feel them in my legs. You're just out of shape, Rachel, right now. Then they found out I had Derkham's disease. And I'll never forget, he grabbed my face and he's like, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry I didn't believe you. And, my husband thought I was crazy. You're just getting older. You're not gonna put muscle on like you used to. I'm like, it wouldn't be fucking instantaneous, dude.
Right. It wouldn't be right away. So how long from the second injection did you start to have visible tumors known as Derkham's? Was that the same case for your sisters?
Because they weren't heavy lifters and they didn't have as much muscle, so not as much like blood vessels that were kind of open. Not as quickly. They both started getting panic attacks, vertigo, like what Abby thought was sciatic nerve pain, but she was like, her MRI was normal. Like having a hard time like eating, getting really itchy, like rashes all over the place. Tinnitus really, really bad. I had that for a long time. Bailey kept getting vertigo really, really bad, like vision issues, panic attacks, arrhythmias, things like that. Theirs was almost like a couple months after.
Okay, so this was like in the same timeline. So just talk to us before we wrap up. You know what? It's kind of a sad subject, and you have worked really, really hard to really manage what you like to manage as much as you possibly can within this really limited context. So you are super strict about your diet. Talk to us a little bit, if you feel comfortable with, like, what does your diet look like right now? What is your day to day? I mean, I kind of know, but just give people an idea of what kind of dedication it takes in order to, even while you're still managing this very active disease and illness, but you have been told that you put yourself in a much better position by the doctors and the medical team that you've been seeing because of the lifestyle that you're maintaining. Talk to us a little bit about what that looks like for you.
Yeah, one, I quit drinking completely. Not that I ever had a problem with booze, but like it's huge in inflammation. No smoking, no more weed anymore. I would like to light a joint. I used to smoke cigarettes now and then, like I loved it, but I quit that. But I also made sure that I'm allergic to the mRNA vaccine, and almost 90% of the meat out in California has that in the meat now. So I found a rancher out in Montana. So I spend a shit ton of money getting restorative meat that's all completely organic, shipped to my house. I grow my own vegetables. I have certain seeds that are shipped out from a Amish farm out in Pennsylvania. We have a water filtration system in the house. I turn off my phone. I wear blue blockers usually if I'm not doing a podcast on my computer. We have certain kinds of light bulbs. We got the iridescents put all over the house. And I keep like filtered air system going on all the time in our house. And I wear earplugs out in public because even now too, excuse me, if loud noises and stuff will affect the nervous system, which affects the blood vessels, which cause the vertigo. So if I meet my friends at a restaurant, I'm wearing earplugs. It looks ridiculous, but I meditate. I do red light therapy. I have a vibration plate that I use for lymphatic drainage. And I just don't I also have stopped doom scrolling. I will look at stuff for the podcast. Ricky will tell you, actually, the other night I was on a show and I actually didn't talk politics for the first time. I think that's really healthy too, because anxiety can also make this flare up in my body. But I think also being around people. I feel like a lot of people with my disease who are vaccine injured or have DIRCMs in general start kind of withdrawing from society, staying at home. They go on long-term disability. I am at a place that I absolutely love to work. I have the coolest coworkers ever. I can't believe sometimes that I get paid money to do what I do. The hours are insane, and Ricky will tell you too, like it's insane. Sometimes I'm there, 60, 70 hours a week. But I've got joy in my life. I will say faith is really important to me. I read scripture every day. I'm Catholic. I do the rosary every day. And I go to mass every Sunday. I'm of service. I think that's really helpful. People don't have a lot of, people don't know exactly any goals anymore because everyone's so used to just scrolling on their phone and just kind of not interacting with each other. I think if people started doing this in person more, girl, you and I would be together all the time if you lived over here.
Hell yeah.
But I think being positive too, like every morning I wake up, I go, do I say 10 things that I'm happy for? Some days it's just, I'm happy I have Wi-Fi. Like you can't always be super positive, but that's been helpful. But also diet is key. I don't fucking deviate. No sugar. You know how much sugar you're supposed to have, Ash, every day? Do you know how much you're supposed to have?
No.
0. You're supposed to have 0. And, now it's like, oh, if you have less than 45 grams, I'm like, that's basically 3 Snickers bars. Even the apples and stuff that they're growing nowadays, it's organic, have so many chemicals. And I can feel a difference if I have to eat something that's been at a restaurant. And I know that it's gone through that whole process, organic or not. So I'm really conscious about what I put in my body. And some people think that's extreme and that's crazy, but I think that I would have been dead by now if I.
Yeah, the effort that you have been putting into trying to help yourself is honestly incredible. And I love it because I know that when we talk about things, you're like, yep, I've tried it, I've looked into it, or whatever. I mean, and it's with everything, but the fighting spirit, that is what I think is the most important thing under this umbrella, is that you are not giving up. You're not rolling over. You're not isolating. You are living your life and you're taking care of yourself and you're trying to reclaim your health. And I just think so highly of you for so many reasons, but I'm so impressed by all of the effort that you have put in to manage what you have going on, in addition to having your life and your dog and your family and your job, all of these things, and the podcast. So I think that it is really special and really impressive what you do. And I just wanted people to have an idea. Like, this is what it looks like for you to try to manage what you're dealing with.
I think also too, like women too, a lot of these symptoms too can also be perimenopause, and they get gaslit that their labs look normal. So I know that you have your girl over at the place that you get all your panels and stuff done. And ladies, just start advocating for yourself if you don't feel normal. But also, like, if you're smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day and you're drinking a fucking bottle of wine at night, it's on you. But if you actually try and you're just not feeling normal, don't let people gaslight you. Even anxiety is also a symptom of something else going in your body. It doesn't always have to be something that's external. And also external can affect as well. So have good people around you in your life. I have a great group of friends. I love, my passion is I love conspiracy theories. Find something that you're passionate about, because that's why I do the podcast. I just hit 77 episodes this week, since it started last year. And I think it's super important to have something that gets you up and going every day.
Yes, 100%. And I agree. And if anybody is interested and you're looking for like the naturopathic, I've got a couple people that I work with. And one of the things that I would say is that oftentimes if you were to go through the traditional medical route and get your thyroid checked, they will check 1 or 2 markers, which is usually T3 and T4. But what we need is a full thyroid panel, and you need help understanding and interpreting, because my understanding is like, even that is not the best sign, but it's just one example of how the medical industry does not have a good handle on that. And some of the other actual markers are super cheap and easy. If you want to check to see how your thyroid is doing, take a thermometer first thing in the morning before you do anything else, put it under your armpit for 10 minutes, let it acclimate, and check your temperature. And this is documented by Dr. Broda Barnes in his book and his work. And then there's, of course, Ray Peat that talks about this. And there's a book called Heal Your Metabolism. And that is one of the best ways you can tell. So if you don't have a temperature, like my temperature is low as hell. It's like 96 something. We need to be close to that 98.6. So if you can get close to 98 or even over like 97.8, that is one tiny indicator, a good indicator of where your thyroid is firing. So we need to be warm. The little heater inside of us needs to be running, and that's something that you're not getting that basic information from a traditional medical establishment. Unfortunately, I'm not saying there's no place. I know that the team that you have worked with have helped you. Some of them have helped you so much, and they've validated what you're experiencing and have given you really good guidance. But I think it goes back to what you said, is that we have to advocate for ourselves. It shouldn't be as hard as it is, but here we are.
And like 2 things, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Tatum. She is, if you want to find her on Instagram, it's Dr. I think it's Renwell MD. She's incredible. She will help you on the natural side. She's helping a lot of women. She's great. And I do want to tread lightly on this one as well. But if you have all your blood panels, you have all of your doctor's notes, if you have your diet, like I have my fitnesspal.com, I pay for the yearly subscription. I track everything and I weigh all my food. And it's very easy, you guys. People are like, I don't have time. For me to meal prep the next day, it takes me 10 minutes. That's it. It's 10 minutes. But I will say, like a ChatGPT or like Claude, if you can put that in there, it will help you sort of get a bigger picture of what could be going on.
Right. And I've heard other people that use Claude for that, and that Claude is one of the best AIs out there. Now, this is a whole conversation. We've talked about it on nights. Like, yes, there's all, like you said, tread lightly. Like but we live in the world that we live in. So when we're in search of information, sometimes concessions need to be made. Like it, and so I haven't used Claude, but if I felt like I really need this information, I need something that's going to help me. And if you start trying to dig into this stuff, it could be really overwhelming because there are so many interactions in the body with the thyroid and our metabolism and hormones and gut health and liver health and all of these things. And like even looking into healing your gut, right? So like giving up gluten, for example. Then you're maybe trying to treat SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or maybe you're trying to treat like thrush or yeast or something. Like and that's one tiny category. There's so much going on. Anyway, we have gone over time. I want you to reiterate where people can find you. I want you to tell us what you have coming up, and I want you to tell us about your coffee.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. So the Raydical Truth Podcast is on Spotify. Same at the Raydical Truth Podcast on Instagram as well. Michael Strange, the episode dropped yesterday from Troubled Minds. Great episode. We talk about the conspiracy theory for the Las Vegas shooting. Talked a little bit aliens, but that's what we were a little heavy on. Next week, I have Paul Stobbs on, who is very well known. He has a PhD in theology, and sort of his rabbit hole of, he's got a book called out that the Nephilim were clowns, basically what they look like, talking about the Gandhar giants over in Afghanistan, how they had red hair, and Indians talking about them and sort of the evolution of the Nephilim and the giants, more scripture-based. It's an incredible episode. It's great because I don't talk hardly at all. He just runs for like 60 minutes. He's great. And then also to the official coffee of the show is don'ttreadonbeancoffee.com. It's roasted here in the United States. We've got like, I think 25 different flavors along with espresso beans. So go ahead and check that out. And that's where I'm at.
All right, awesome. I cannot wait to catch up on your Michael Strange issue. Or your episode. I love your show. Thank you. I love you. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about all this stuff. And I hope that maybe we can do this like every so often, because a weekend works better for you. My show usually is on Thursday evening, but maybe we can like throw in kind of semi-regular Saturday showing kind of thing based on what you got going on.
Yeah, and we can talk about more fun stuff instead of like depressing shit with my body.
I know. I wanted to go fun, and then time got away from me, and an hour fly. And we always talk about this. An hour, it goes by too fast. So
yeah, we need to start recording in the car. We need to start just recording in the car like when I'm going to work.
Yes. Okay, so shout out really quick. We had Ghost Art, Ricky, Hiker Emoji, Nostradamus, Sweets, Jason Barker, Alien Poop Evolution, Sherry M2, Linda Craig, D2T. And if I missed anybody, I am very, very sorry. I appreciate you all being live with us so much. It means the world to me. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so you know when I go live.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate you, girl.
Thanks. Take care, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.